welcome everybody. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with augmented reality. If you have a sense, I'm assuming that people have a sense of what it is. Basically, it's when a view of the actual world is taken and augmented, something is added, and then put back on your device for you to look through. But there are so many iterations of it. For a little bit of background, I am a Johns Hopkins Museum Studies graduate student, and there's Nancy Proctor. I met Nancy because I was very interested in Smithsonian and mobile, and Nancy invited me to come to some mobile meetings, and I started saying to her, what about augmented reality? What about augmented reality? And she would say, I know, I'm just so busy. And bumped into her on the metro one day, and Nancy said, I know, you do it. So I've been working with Nancy. Nancy's been mentoring me really since February in one iteration or another. But for Hopkins, I did research, really trying to look at augmentation. What is it? How do we use it? These are the folks who are on the panel. Miguel Palma is not here from Junaio. And I have no idea. I'm waiting for a message or a call. He should be here. So we'll just push the program forward, and if he comes in, that will be great. And I'm hoping that he does come, because Junaio is a major AR platform. I know I have a lot of questions, and I really wanted this to be an opportunity to tell the industry what we want for museums. What do we need? How can we use this? So since he's not here, I'll talk a little bit longer. My background is in visual art. I used to be a painter, installation, theater, a lot of different kinds of things. And I think in all of that, we deal with space and spatial relationships and how do we use space? How does a sculptor manipulate space? In some ways, the history of painting is the history of the examination of space. I think everyone knows the difference between a Byzantine painting and a Renaissance painting. It's a really obvious split of, how is space perceived and put forth. The idea of a modernist, very flat plane. You have cubist space coming about the same time as the theory of relativity. So artists are coming at similar things from a different way than science, but space is a major consideration. And AR is absolutely the strangest space I have ever seen. It really, it's almost to me, it's like the hypnagogic state when you're falling asleep and things are half real and half not, kind of a dream world. This might sound very far out from what you do when you rate a restaurant on Yelp, but it's unlike any spatial relationship I've ever seen. And there are a lot of mysterious elements around it to me. Geolocation. You have images clustered around this invisible geographic point. A 3D image can hover in space, and you can walk around it like an apparition. It's very, very mysterious stuff to me. I think that we live in a world of data. It's the information age as well as the digital age. And I think AR can mirror that idea that we are sort of swimming in data, and AR can reveal it. Miguel is here. He'll be here in 15 minutes. He apologizes, so just got it. But to me, that's a really important point, that data is all around us. Information is all around us. And through AR, we can reveal it and we can see it. In the art world, from my perception, for a long time, I felt like people were saying there's nothing new, painting's dead, all of this. And to me, AR is new. I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. So I find it very, very, very intriguing. And in the museum world, there's a phrase, if anybody knows the origin of this, I'd really appreciate it. I've tried to find it, but the phrase wonder and delight, that's something that a museum can do for visitors, is engender wonder and delight. And I think this has the capacity to do that. There's a woman named Hella, I'm going to mispronounce her name, Papagiannis, who is doing really, really beautiful, beautiful work. I'm not going to go through a lot of examples of work. There's so much out there. This is the basic idea. And working with Nancy and the Smithsonian, you all may be familiar with the wiki, the mobile wiki. It's a wonderful resource. There's the paper that I wrote for Hopkins and working with Smithsonian that can give you more explanation if you feel that you need it, and some editorializing. And there's a page of links. And it is a wiki. Please add to it. It's happening so fast, it's really hard to keep up with it. So I would appreciate that, any input. But for the museum use, I think we're struggling to find meaningful uses for AR, and I think that they're there. I think it can be an immersive experience and really powerful and also social. We have some connections with the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, and I had the privilege to go there and look at some of their work. Because again, and this is something you have to be on site. So everything sort of went to the web. This brings it back to place again. But at the Stedelijk, they have found that it's a very social medium, that people talk about it. They'll share the phone to look at it. It works well for events. I had put up a thing with Twitter, very simple, a company called Crosshair, so that you can see the tweets hanging in space where their origin was. And what a great thing for an event. You know, how did everybody like the show, like the exhibit? Tweet it, and everybody can look at it. And that's a free platform. So I think it has a lot of potential. I think for some people, it's going to be the last technological straw. I think a lot of people will say, I don't care, I don't want it, I don't want to look through my phone, but I think that's where we're at with a lot of technology, that there's going to be the people who like it and the people who don't. I think it's a very rich territory for exploration, and I think there are a lot of artists going out and playing with this medium. They're putting their own work in museums virtually. You know, they just put the work down, and there it is, and you can see it through your phone. I think there are key works, even though I'm not going to go through and show them, because we have a wonderful panel here, and I want you to have the chance to ask people questions and see what some folks are doing. But the Street Museum of the London Museum, Street Museum, Museum of London, is a key piece. I think genres are starting to shake out. That is, you've probably seen where you overlay the historic photos on the actual spot, and I think they are the best example. But there's something like History Pin, very accessible, people can do it, and this is all on the wiki. I just think there's so much potential. I've made a little bit of a list of things that AR can do. It can compensate for color blindness. People who are colorblind can use it for that. Industry is really, and I think Miguel Palma will address some of this because they do some industrial stuff. Industry is using it for looking at pipes underground, things like that. You can look, you can see what's underground. It's that idea of revealing what you can't see otherwise. You can try on glasses through AR. You can try on clothes virtually. And some of these are on the wiki. You can transform a landscape into an earlier time. I think this is so key for museums, and a lot of people are working in this genre. I think it can sell a lot of T-shirts. And it can show stars in the sky when you can't see them. So it's a really great tool. It's all over the place. So I hope that we get some handle on it today with different projects. So I'm going to pass it on to a company called Second Sight, Dave and Taylor and Matthew, and they are from Chattanooga and doing some really interesting things. On the program, it says Gene Becker from Layar, and he was unable to make it. And Second Sight folks are filling in. They are Layar partners, and I think doing some really, really interesting things that you'll be happy to hear. Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, it's a real thrill. Should I stand up there, or
Get the PowerPoint.
Yeah. A real thrill and honor to be here. Thank you very much. So augmented reality, just to kind of get everyone on the same playing field, you're probably familiar with it. Certainly you are if you're in this room, but the best notion is the first down line on a football screen where this digital information is overlaid the lens of the television. And so the mobile smart devices are the new lens. They have a GPS, a compass, a gyroscope, broadband connection, camera view, so you can start to interact with information based on where you are. I'll lay it out. I'm a layperson in technology, really, so I'm probably the best person to kind of explain this to you. We're representing Layar, who is one of the technology companies out there. It'd be remiss not to put in a plug for them. They've got over 10 million downloads of their browser, which is by far and away the most downloads on the browser. But there's two types of augmented reality that would be of interest to you, I believe. That's the geolocated space, and then the markerless space. So one of the projects that we're working on in Chattanooga is we're augmenting their public art. They have over 100 works of sculptures throughout the city. And we're teaming up with the city and foundations and the relevant museums to allow this information to be essentially clickable. So in this, back up one instance. So you can see this is a live screenshot of Free Money, which is a sculpture in Chattanooga. And it makes that when you're near that space, essentially clickable. So I'm also a layperson in art, but I know it, I like it when I see it, but if I had more information about it, maybe knew what the artist was thinking when they were conceiving it, what inspired them, maybe some other works of art for that. Any information is now can be linked to that space and that physical space. So the challenge, I think, of dealing with the mobile world is that there's so many different platforms. You don't get any economy of scale. You can either create something on a website, or if you have to create an application, you have to create one for each of these devices. And that's a challenge. But that's a challenge that folks like Layar and Matteo, who creates a Junaio browser, are bridging for us. That they're creating an augmented reality browser that allows us to create content that can be viewed on their browser across platforms. And that's something that needs to be kept in consideration, I think. That's so. Another challenge, I think, is getting people to use it. How do you get the word out? There's several ways, but you can work with QR tags or links, and we're just kind of
from a desktop too. I mean, there's lots of different ways. A lot of phones actually come with Layar pre-installed, so then you can just do word searches for.
That's right. So this is Layar. If you don't have it on your browser, I recommend you interact with all the augmented reality. Matteo is the other folks that will be here. But you can browse for different Layar sets, data sets. So for instance, the public art, you would search for Chattanooga, and right now there are 3 different layers that are available. One of them is a georeference layer, so you have to be in Chattanooga to view it. But another one is what we're calling this 360 layer that launches works of art around you. So you can interact with art that's in the Chattanooga space. Part of the way that I framed this was that I recognize that there's a challenge with a public art infrastructure. And if you own millions of dollars worth of infrastructure, how do you know that you're meeting social or economic needs? It's a challenge because you're not taking any attendance. You don't know who's viewing this. But now if you have somebody interact with your works with augmented reality, you can pick up, set the Big Brother stuff aside for a moment. There's ways to do it anonymously, but somebody in Kansas City, for instance, maybe looked at this art in Chattanooga on the 360 layer, then 6 months later they show up in Chattanooga. I think that would help quell some of the conversation about people that think that art is a bad investment for cities. I know we're real fortunate in Chattanooga. There's a big push for public art, and I can attest that certainly I think elevates quality of life for people that both live there and visit. So for, I can't,
That's
with
just
over-
the menu system. We ended up with a situation of, with the geolocated layer, you can either start out and just search whatever's nearby, or we also put in a series of filters. If you already know a certain area that you're in or a type of art that you want to look at, you're able to kind of thin that down. And as we talked about the Art 360 layer that's visible anywhere in the world, it gives you a way to then select different groups. And for each one of those groups, it projects several works of art around you in the circle. Yes.
Can people look at that now if they
What's on there now are 3 public beta layers, and they're just the tip of the iceberg. In about 2 weeks, everything's going to be public.
But if you have the Layar and it's Layar.
You can go ahead and type in Chattanooga, and that'll pull up.
See it in the room.
One will be the Hunter Museum, which is a geo-reference sampling of the full public art layer. Then there are 2 of the early versions of the Art 360s. They don't have the filtering system built into them. About 2 weeks, there'll be 2 layers. There'll be the public art of Chattanooga and the Art 360, and it'll have the complete public art collection. And this is something that we're building out. We're adding in public art from local universities and expanding out, so our number will just continue to grow, the works we're providing.
So so one of the challenges is that if you interact with customized information, it's one thing to put just a simple icon up there, but I don't think that's a very compelling. Matter of fact, let me make this kind of notion for you: is that the state of data or content for augmented reality is really poor. Most augmented reality content is a phone book that's been geocoded. So you turn an address into a GPS point. And if it says pizza, you float a pizza icon on it. And that's not compelling, and it doesn't tell a story. It's just taking existing data and forcing it on the augmented reality format versus starting with augmented